Hello guys, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Talanka Rizales from stockmusiclicensing.com. Now in this video, I want to explain to you and show you the difference between a major chord and a minor chord. Now, why is this important for you as a music composer or as a composer for music licensing? Now, this could be the difference between knowing what type of music you're going to be writing and what kind of mood you want to be evoking with your compositions. Now, here is going to be a very simple explanation. And by the way, you don't need to know how to read music. All you need to know is how to actually count, pretty much. It's a very simple process. And I will explain to you how to construct a major chord. First, we're going to be using a C major here, the scale of C major, okay? Or we're going to be doing a C major chord, if you will. And we're going to count the notes, okay? First, here we're on a piano. But again, this doesn't, it doesn't really matter what instrument you're playing, because if you know how to find the notes in a particular instrument, then all you need to do is count, okay? So here we are on C. That's our first note. And notice here that the major scale, it has 7 notes. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then this will be the 8th note, but it's actually the first note again, and it repeats. So you see here that every octave has a C or a Do. It's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. Now, in notation, and again, you don't need to know music in order to understand this. We're going to be doing is constructing the a major chord. In this case, we're going to be using C as an example. So our first note is going to be the very first note, the root note, which is C. Okay. So this is C. Let's bring it all the way up here, I guess. And so that's our very first note. And what we do here is just pretty much count. We need to count now all the way up till number 3. So the major chord is constructed by 3 notes only. In this case is the very first one, and the 3rd one, and the 5th one. So we're going to go and count 1, 2, 3. That's simple. So that's the second note. So it's C, D, and E. So it's C and E, which is the first. This is the first one. This is the 3rd note in the scale. Now I need to get to the 5th note. So I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is G. And that way you construct a major chord. This is a C major chord, and it's made up out of the first note, the 3rd note, and the 5th note. That's it. You can apply this blueprint to any note in across the keyboard or in any instrument, and you will create a major chord. And it will sound something like this. Whoops. That's a major chord. Again, this is a blueprint, and you can apply this to any note or any chord progression or any notes within the chord, and you will have a major chord regardless of where you are in the key and in the keyboard, and regardless of what instrument you're going to be. Now, I want to create the same chord, but I want to make it minor. Now, the minor chord has the same notes, but the 3rd note is flattened. What does that mean? What it means is that it's just a semitone down or lower. And without getting too much into music theory for you, if you don't know how to read music or you don't understand the various principles behind music, it's just a semitone instead of a tone. So it will be, this is a semitone. In this case, you notice here that in Logic it says that is a D sharp, which means is that it's D and a semitone up in terms of pitch. And again, I don't want to confuse you if you don't understand much about music theory, but if we go back to our scale here, which is 7 notes, you notice that there's black keys here. Okay, so from C to C, there are 2 semitones, and is between the 3rd and the 4th note of the scale, and between the 7th and the 1st again. So if I count like this, 1, 2, here's a whole tone, and this represents my semitone. The black key represents the between C and D, between the 1st and the 2nd. and so on and so forth. So when we get to the third one, here there is no such a thing as a black key, which means that between the third and the fourth, or between E and F, that's a semitone, okay? That's what we're doing here. We're actually bringing a semitone, all right? And it's just there's a space in between two notes, and it's at the same time it's both. It's a D sharp and it's an E flat at the same time. Again, a little bit confusing if you don't understand much about music, but all you need to know is that you can construct the same major chord. You make it minor by bringing the third note or the third degree in the chord. You bring it flat and you just move it down a semitone. And that way you create the minor chord. And this is what it will sound like. It's very sad. This is very sad chord already. There's a major difference between that and this. And that right there creates the difference between a major and a minor chord. And the best way to visualize this or to understand this concept is to actually make this a happy chord. This is a happy chord. And this is a sad chord. That's simple. Sad, happy. It's very subtle. It's very, very subtle, but this blueprint you can apply to any note, and that's the way you construct different chords. And this is the main difference between major and minor. And the best way to understand this is that a major chord is a happy chord, or it evokes a happy feeling, and the minor chords evokes a sad note. And the one that is responsible for this is this little baby right here. This note is the responsible. Number 3 is responsible for making that chord either happy or sad. So anyways, I hope this video is helpful to you when it comes down to music composition. And let me know in the comments if this is something that you would like to see more of concerning composition and writing and chord structure. I want to simplify the process. I want to simplify how to write music without knowing how to read music. And if you know how to count from 1 to 7, you know how to read music and you know how to write music. You don't need to know the difference between C major and C minor. All you need to know is that can you count from 1 to 7, okay? And then know which numbers are you going to be writing in your keyboard here, or a guitar if you're a guitarist, or any instrument whatsoever. You should be able to put these 3 notes and create your chords. And you can decide if you're going to write something in a major key or it's going to be in a minor key. So again, leave in the comment section if this is something that you want to see more of. If you want me to explain a little bit more of music composition and how to create happy music or sad music, and how to actually evolve from here, how to write different chord progressions. Where do we go from here? What happens if we're going to decide to write in C minor as a first chord, and what chords should follow after this? And then how can I develop a melody based on this first chord, because it all starts with one chord. And then after this one, I need to decide which is going to be the next chord. And then how can I build a melody based on this motif, if you will, or based on this chord progression and harmonies. So again, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for subscribing to the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Thanks a lot for all the lovely support. And as always, rock and roll, and here's to your success.